Welcome to the Mind Body Connection Summit, where we bring to you experts who are expertise in the mind and body connection to help you to live a more fulfilled life in your business and or personal life. Our next speaker is Jennifer Jurovsky, and she is where Western psychotherapy meets Eastern energy healing. She's a registered psychotherapist, certified Canadian counselor, psychotherapeutic energy healer, and intuitive life coach. With over 20 years of spiritual journeying towards holistic practice, Jennifer brings an understanding of the human psyche as it relates to vibrational energies, both internal and external, to support a fully holistic healing experience for her clients. Jennifer, I look forward to hearing what you have to share. You have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here. I've loved listening to these talks. Wow, Rebecca, following you. Whew. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, I'm going to be talking today about passenger consciousness, learning to quiet the mind and listen to the body. I really have loved hearing everything that everybody's been talking about, understanding the mind-body connection and the emphasis on really recognizing this intricate relationship, right? Because our thoughts, our emotions, our physical sensations, they're so deeply tied together. And I think we can all agree at this point, right, that understanding this mind-body connection is so essential for our personal growth and our well-being. And it's amazing how by honoring this profound relationship, we can actually cultivate, self-awareness. We can, work on our physical body and actually, bring ourselves to this place of balance and fulfillment. And I just think it's incredible hearing all of this. And who wouldn't want to be able to do that, right? It's bang on when we talk about the mind, body, and I'm going to say spirit too, connection, because they were designed to work succinctly together in this beautiful flow state. I mean, we talk about recent, research with like even the gut-brain axis, right? With hundreds of millions of neurons that allow for direct communication between the gut and the brain. I mean, the potential for flow within our body is absolutely amazing. But here's the kicker, right? The moment we come into the world, we enter into our conditioning process. And the moment that we start to have that conditioning, looking at it from a mind, body, and spirit working in a flow state, we're talking about working within our proper roles, right? But this conditioning makes it so that the mind begins to believe that it's the boss. And that throws everything off balance, right? That conditioning is what causes our emotional imbalances because we stop trusting our gut instinct. We begin to not want to listen to our emotions, right? We start to label them, we start to judge them. We decide that certain emotions are not really good. We want to push those ones away. And other emotions, well, I like those emotions and I'm not really okay unless I have those in my experience, right? This disconnect causes us to not be able to tap into our intuition as well. And all of this makes our nervous system begin to become disarrayed, right? Our poor vagus nerve, which carries all of these messages throughout our body, it doesn't know how to regulate in that moment because, we're not listening to it. We're not listening to anything that the body is telling us. And the vagus nerve is saying, whoa, hold up. Like we need to do something here. It's in its fight, flight, freeze, fawn state. And we're just not listening. The brain's going, I got it. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do something else now. Okay, I'm going to figure something else out, right? And our ability for stress management just goes out the window. And this whole debacle just wreaks havoc on our physical and mental health. So these mental gymnastics that the mind does when it thinks it's in charge disconnects us. And so the balance that we would have in this flow state is gone. And this is all because of the conditioning of the mind, right? So what would you say if I told you that your mind was never meant to be your decision maker? Okay, let me say that again. Your mind was never meant to be your decision maker. Now, I can hear it now. Some of you might have your mind go, don't listen to this coop, right? But your body may be holding its breath. right? Because the reality is it's your body, not your mind, that holds the wisdom. Okay, let that settle in. And I know, even with Rebecca's talk and a lot of other people, you're hearing about the wisdom that the body holds and being able to tap into that. It's the body, not the mind, that holds the wisdom, right? You can feel that in the body, that moment of, wow, wait a minute, am I going to get my moment? Okay, so let's take a step back for a minute because I want to look at the mind. Why do we take the mind so seriously? Okay, it's loud, it's chaotic, it's filled with thoughts, fears, worries, labels, judgments. I mean, you name it, the mind has it. And the truth of the matter is, the mind doesn't actually care about the validity of all of these things, right? It promotes its narrative as long as it can make sense of it. So I'm not going to get too into the science because I only have 20 minutes, but I do want to talk a little bit about this. In the 1960s, doctors Sperry and Gazzaniga performed split brain research. They had a really unique opportunity to work with the right and left hemispheres of the brain. And they found that the left hemisphere was responsible for this individual sense of self that we have, this kind of who we think we are. And Dr. Gazzaniga actually called it the fictional self because they found that they would show something to the right brain and a person would respond. And then they would ask, why did you just do that thing? Say, like, get up and go for a walk. And the person would process the question and answer with their left brain. And the left brain, not knowing that the right brain was told to go for a walk, would then make up a story as to why they wanted to go for a walk. What they found was that the brain would just go with whatever made the most sense for it, regardless of whether or not it actually had anything to do with what was really happening. So how often do we, when trusting the mind's interpretation of our reality, actually believe a narrative that is familiar or consistent to us, but isn't actually necessarily true? Okay. And this is the reason why our mind was never really meant to be our decision maker. Okay. And so we need to learn to create some distance between ourselves and our thoughts and our perceptions, realizing that our thoughts, even though we have them, are not defining who we are. So when we identify with our thoughts, this is where our levels of stress and anxiety become unhealthy, right? Where depression and disordered thinking come into play. But if we can have that disconnect, we're able to take a step back and begin to observe them and actually begin to challenge them, right? And learning to not take the mind so seriously is the door to new understanding, and being able to detach from our thoughts. This is the key. Okay. So many different tools have been given in the summit and are going to continue to be given to be able to work on that detachment, right? Mindfulness meditations, journaling, developing awareness of our patterns. Use all of them and find the one that works the best for you. Because in order to become the passenger consciousness, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, we have to be able to help the mind to take the back seat and enjoy the ride. All right. But I want to go to the body before I get into passenger consciousness. So, all right, we get the mind quiet. We learn to listen to the body. What's going on there, right? Our bodies are always communicating with us through sensations, emotions, physical cues. But we've come to a point where when we feel those things, we're used to interpreting them from the mind, right? Instead of taking that initial moment and going, oh, right? So what do I mean? Have you ever had the experience where somebody says, hey, I need you to go do such and such. And every part of you goes, oh, do I have to? I don't want to, right? The body feels weak. It just is drained. All of the energy just feels like it's been sapped from you, right? And then the mind goes, yeah, but we really should go do that because of this reason or that reason, or the flip side of that is, somebody says, hey, I'm going to this event and I'd really love for you to join me. And we light up, right? The body's energized. There's tingles. It's just the excitement is there. And then the brain goes, yeah, but we're really busy and we've got all these things we have to do. We really don't have time for that, right? And these kinds of moments, the more we do them, the more we don't listen to what the body is telling us, and we deny the ability to tap into that vitality within us, the more we actually bring imbalance into our experience. Okay. So when I talk about stress and imbalance, what am I talking about? And this is going to come back to some of what even Rebecca was talking about: tension in the body, muscle tightness, stomach pains. I mean, we talk about things like irritable bowel and things like that that are very closely connected to stress. We have headaches, stomach aches, body aches, all of the different digestive issues, right? Changes in our appetite, our sleep, our ability to connect with people. All of these things change when we're not listening to the body. And it's the body's way of saying, whoa, hold up. Like, these are my warning signs to you. You're not listening, right? And still we push and we push. And so it's really important that we take a step back and we begin to notice these signs, so that when the body says, wow, yes, we go, okay, how can I make this happen? Right? And if the body goes, oh, I really can't, okay, what can I do to help it so that I don't have to go there, right? So that I don't have to do this thing, or how can I balance, right? And balance is huge, because we don't often do that. We just let the mind kind of do its thing and push us along, right? So it's about bringing in awareness. And, I love the theme for this about action and action takers, right? Because action really is what brings us through. And so many practices can help us to decondition the mind and the body, right? So using things like sound healing and yoga, dance, exercise, energy medicine, somatic experiencing. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do to help decondition the body, and help to be able to really begin to connect again. And I think that this step is often missed, right? We talk about doing things like body scans and paying attention to the body, but we don't recognize the conditioning that the body has had. And this is where trauma response and things like that come into play. We have to really work with the body to help it also decondition from what the mind has been doing, right? Because those signals between the mind and the body are constantly there. And so in the psychology world, we talk about top down or bottom, top down or bottom up approaches. And I think that we really need to have both going at the same time, right? We can't just do one or the other. We really need to be able to work together to heal mind and body at the same time. And so when it comes to this connection piece, it's really vital to learn the signs and signals that the body is giving, to be able to work with that. And so, we talk about deep breathing, and this is a huge one, because when we look at the way that breath signals the vagus nerve, breath work is like going to the gym for the vagus nerve, right? It helps the body to be able to regulate. And I don't think that we even give the breath enough credit for the potential of what it can do, to help us calm down. And so those moments where we just say, you know what, take a pause, take a breath. This is vital for being able to even find pause to say, wait, what's the mind doing for me in this moment? What is the body actually telling me? Where do I want to go from here? Okay, but I need to get into talking about passenger consciousness, because I could talk about all of this forever. Okay, so passenger consciousness comes from human design. So those of you who are unfamiliar with human design, this is a synthesis of various spiritual, scientific, and mystical traditions. So we have things like the I Ching, there's astrology, there's quantum physics, there's human genetics. There's so much in this. And basically, the system is about reading your energetic blueprint to help you learn how to quiet the mind and listen to the body and tap into your inner wisdom. Again, tons of stuff I could get into, don't have a lot of time, so we're going to do some bare bones. But the mind-body connection is fundamental with human design and understanding our individual design. Okay, so that we can work on our unique blueprint and understanding how it, the insight that it gives us on how we function energetically and how we function with each other in the world. All right. So when we talk about passenger consciousness, we're talking about allowing our being, that part of us that can observe the mind-body connection, to kind of take the wheel. All right. So let me give an example for you here. So let's say we are talking about self-care routines, right? And cultivating this connection. And people say, okay, regular exercise, nourishing food choices, adequate rest, right? This is all great. But that might look different for each person depending on their blueprint. So in human design, there's 4 different aura types. There's the generators, the projectors, the manifestors, and reflectors. And if you take me up on my offer for the 30 minutes, we can get into what all of that looks like. But as the example here, generators need to use up all of their energy before they go to sleep. And if they don't, they're going to find themselves tossing and turning all night, while a projector needs to go to bed before they feel tired, because they have to release energy that they picked up from others throughout the day before they can actually sleep. So this idea of getting adequate rest is great advice, but that's going to look really, really different depending on a person's type. And then, each type has a specific strategy that's unique to them. And each person is going to have an authority that's unique to them. And these strategies and authorities help them navigate the world so that they can use their energy wisely. All right. So I'm going to look at generators specifically for the sake of time, and because generators constitute like 66 to 70% of the population. So statistically speaking, most people are going to be that. The strategy for a generator is to respond, right? So often we are told in this world, we have to push, we have to go for it, we have to just trailblaze and make things happen. But the reality is only 10% of the world are manifestors who are supposed to trailblaze. Generators, who are majority of the world's population, are here to respond. Okay, so what does that mean? You're here to respond to everything. Every bit of stimulation that comes your way is something for you to respond to, but you're not here to force anything. Okay, so you hear a song on the radio and it brings out a feeling for you, you respond to it. Somebody invites you to something and it feels good, you go, oh yeah, I definitely want that. You respond to it, or you go, oh no, thank you. That's a response, right? It's about really feeling into what you're responding to and how that response feels for you. Okay. And so this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, right? This idea of the mind getting in the way of really feeling our response to things. Okay. And it reminds me of what Rebecca was talking about too, the idea of taking what other people tell us that doesn't feel correct for us, but kind of going with it because it sounds like maybe we should or shouldn't do that. Right. This idea that, we get so caught up in the shoulds and the should nots that we don't actually listen to ourselves and what's coming up for us. And so the body then goes, well, I'm telling you. And the mind goes, yeah, I'll listen to you later, right? The other thing with human design that's really awesome is that we have a body graph with 9 centers. They're similar to the chakras, and each one is correlated with a physical, mental, and emotional part of our well-being. So again, I'm getting close on my time, so I'm just going to look at 2 of them. We have the head center, which is our mental processes. Okay, so thoughts, ideas, inspiration. Obviously, I picked the head for the mind, right? This is biologically correlated with the pineal gland, and it's responsible for regulating our sleep cycles, for our nervous system signals with our hormones, our activity level in the sense of mood stabilization, This center is responsible for the busy mind and the constant flow of information and possibilities. But what's pretty incredible here is the mind has all of these possibilities and all of these questions, but it's not where the answers are. Okay. This is where we experience all that pressure to think, to understand, to make sense. But the head can get really overactive, right? And it can lead to stress and anxiety and all of that kind of stuff. And so we have to work on balancing that so that we can be aligned and tap into the intuitive insights and guidance that it can bring without trying to have it bring us all of the answers. And then we have the sacral center. Okay, the sacral center is biologically associated with our reproductive organs. This is our life force energy, our vitality. Okay, this is the part that has all of that governs our actions and our ability to, sustain our activity and our ability to persist with that activity. When that's out of balance, this is fatigue, burnout, lack of focus, the inability to motivate ourselves to actually get anything done. But when it's acting and operating in a harmonious way, somebody with a defined sacral can generate a sustainable life force energy that can keep them going to get through all kinds of projects and activities and really power through, right? And so knowing your definition and knowing where you're, open to conditioning and where you're going to be impacted is an amazing eye-opening experience. Because in those moments, you can look at your unique design and go, wow, okay, that's why I do that. That's why my mind acts that way. That's what's going on for me when this or that is happening. And it gives us permission to be who we are and who we knew we were from the beginning, to listen to the body and to say to the mind, you know what, mind, that's a conditioned response. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be, right? And it allows us to really stop taking the mind so seriously, to start understanding and listening to and responding to the signs the body is giving us. So I'm going to leave you with a quote from Ra, who was actually the original medium from the Human Design Download, when he was talking about embarking on your human design experiment. And he said, you have to be ready to abandon your mind running your life. You see, all it takes is the readiness to take that journey, to disconnect from the madness of the not self world and its not self purposes. This is that conditioning we talked about. To rediscover the dignity of what it is to be you. It's a wonderful thing to love yourself. It's truly magic.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. I have so many notes here, and we have questions going over there on Facebook as well. So what I want to do first of all, thank you so much for that great presentation. Really enjoyed it. And Jane says over here, great to hear about this topic. I am a manifesting generator. Knowing this brought me lots of clarity. So first, I would love for you to address that, because she mentioned two of the four that you mentioned. And so do we all have all four of them in us? Well, I guess will be the first question. And then are they just maybe in different percentages, and everybody has their different percentages? So Jane knows she's a manifesting generator. Like I put in there, like, I want to be a manifestor. Like, I want to be a manifestor. Am I? How do I know if I am? I don't know. I take the human design test, I guess.
Okay, so there's four main types, but generators can be generators or manifesting generators. So there's like a subgroup of generators.
Okay, cool. So okay, before we go to my final question, because there was something you said, you don't have to have all the answers. And what I found interesting about that, because what immediately came to my mind is that I have this, what I have heard termed as my childlike curiosity. Because am very curious and I have a lot of questions. You might be able to see. I have a ton of questions and I'm going to ask them all, any questions I have time for. And so, so that is kind of curious to me because it's not that I feel like I have to have all the answers. It's just I have questions and I would like the answers to them. And so just curious what your thought is on that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? The mind has all the questions. The problem is when we try to get the mind to give us all of the answers. It's not that we can't find the answers. It's just that the mind isn't where we're going to find them, right? The mind can maybe come up with some answers, but the mind is not where all of the answers are going to reside.
I love this. Okay. This is so good because as you were talking at the very beginning, you were doing more, you're talking about process and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I've got to go listen to this because I need to go listen closely. Right. So that's me wanting to process everything. And then you were like, well, you don't have to process everything. I was like, oh, I guess I don't have to go listen to it. So it was kind of just interesting how it was happening in my mind. And then you were answering my questions right there. There was something you said, when the mind thinks it's the boss, that's when everything is off balance. That one just made me chuckle because I don't know, just thinking about that. So who is the boss?
Well, I think that this comes down a bit to what you believe. We have a mind, but because of all of the conditioning of the mind, we listen to it without ever questioning it. And the mind has all kinds of filters and it has all kinds of things that it does and programming that doesn't always serve us. And so if we just listen to the mind without ever challenging it, it's not good for us, right? It doesn't always give us what we need. The body has a lot of wisdom that we don't listen to, right? But there's another part of us, right? And whatever term we choose to use for that, whether that is spirit, whether that is the observer, whether that is this other piece that can observe what the mind and the body are doing, that part can look at it all and go, okay, I see what's happening here, right? Oh, body, I see that you're not feeling okay. I see that this makes you happy. I see where this connection is going, right? And if we can get to that observer part of us, we can recognize when the mind is serving us and when it's not. And we can recognize the signals that the body is giving us. And then that flow and that connection is beautiful because neither of them are trying to take the driver's seat.
So good. I'm loving every bit of this. And there was something you mentioned too. What I wrote down was, it's not what you said, but what I wrote down was, dismissing bad emotions. Like I termed it bad. I know there's just emotions. They're not good or bad, but I termed it as bad because oftentimes we'll see like crying, like an emotional state of crying or anger or dissatisfaction, these types of emotions, especially when we dismiss something like we're or crying about something. And a lot of people are like, don't cry, right? They tell us, don't cry. We're taught crying is a bad thing, when in reality, that's not the truth at all. And so what I wrote down is that, dismissing those bad emotions, it blocks the flow state.
Oh, most definitely. Every emotion is there as a
Yeah.
messenger, right? It's just there to give us a message. And if we block it, we don't get the message, right? And then the message has to keep coming.
Yeah, and that's what you don't want. You don't want to keep coming. Well, this is amazing. I really have enjoyed this. And you did, allude to your free gift. Your free gift is Human Design Mini Guide plus a 30-minute consultation. You can cash in on that at the actiontakerspublishing.com/summit dashboard. Again, actiontakerspublishing.com/summit dashboard. And Jennifer, tell us, like, why should we click on your link and get that mini guide and that 30-minute consultation?
Yeah, of course. So on the mini guide, you can have a link to the Jovian Archive website where you can get your human design chart for free. And then my quick reference guide is kind of like a little cheat sheet on ways to connect with your strategy and figure out ways to kind of navigate that in the world. And then the 30 minutes is, hey, I want to go deeper. I want to learn about my authority. I want to understand what these centers are all about. How do I actually connect with my body? How do I actually read all of this? Because it's an
Right.
interesting thing to take a look at. And so that 30 minutes is really about kind of doing a quick look at how do I even look at this body graph and read it, and what does it look like, and how do I understand it and what does it all mean?
Okay, fantastic. It's amazing. And I just one last question. I forgot, I wrote this question. I want to make sure I asked it. Is like, what's the biggest shift that you've seen in somebody who has learned how to use their human design?
I've seen absolutely incredible shifts, and the biggest piece in all of it is giving ourselves permission to be who we are, to actually embrace and love ourselves and go, it's okay to be me. I don't have to change it for somebody else.
That's huge. That's huge. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being part of this summit and sharing your brilliance with us. And make sure that you go cash in on her free gifts at actiontakerspublishing.com/summit dashboard. You'll see other experts gifts there as well. So go cash in on those as well. Thanks again, Jennifer. Truly appreciate what
Thank
you've
you so
added
much
here.
for having me.